everyone? This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Wisconsin Badgers are up next. I'll give my thoughts on this team, give you my official prediction for this team, and preview the schedule, and I will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Wisconsin team. Recapping 2021 for this Wisconsin team, they went 9-4 overall in 2021. Really solid season by this team last year. Let's take a look at the offense and defensive rankings from last year. They were 85th on offense, really solid offense. That offense is going to be a little bit young this season, but they still have the talent on that side of the ball. Defensively, they were 4th on defense. This is not going to be the same defense as it was last year, but they still have talent on that side of the ball as well, but it's just going to be a little bit young. Points per game and opponents per game, 25.4 points on the offensive side of the ball, and then 16.2 points given up on the defensive side of the ball. My thoughts on this team is I think they'll be an okay average team, perhaps not a decent team, but I think they'll be an okay team. Not saying they're going to be terrible or something like that. The schedule is kind of tough for Wisconsin as well. Let's get right to the schedule now, and here it is for the 2022 season. You look at who they play outside of the non-conference. They'll play Illinois State, Washington State out of the Pac-12, and then New Mexico State. So you have 3 games there starting at home this season. I mean, Washington State will be a tough non-conference game, but if you look at these other 2 games, it won't be really, that difficult for them. We'll start with that Illinois State game here on September 3rd. That should be an easy win there for Wisconsin. This game should be an easy win here for them, and I got them starting out 1-0. Washington State coming up next here at home. Washington State going to be an okay team, pretty average team or something like that. They'll have pretty much close games this year, but not really high on this team. I mean, just because of the offense that they have coming this year, they're going to be a little bit young on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they'll be really good, but it just comes down to that offense for Washington State. I think this one is a close one, though. I think they do keep this one close, perhaps a coin flip game, but I think Wisconsin is just a touchdown favorite. I'm going to go with the Badgers here to get the win over Washington State here at home. I got them starting out 3-0 with another win against New Mexico State coming on September 17th. And then they face Ohio State here on the road on September 24th. So you have to play Ohio State this year out of the Big Ten East. Ohio State going to be a dangerous team this season. This team is just loaded. They're loaded on offense, they're loaded on defense. I really don't see this game being all that close. I know Wisconsin, maybe does have the talent or something like that, but they don't really have, the same team as they were last year. I'm going to go with the Buckeyes to get the win here and give Wisconsin their first loss of the season here on September 24th on the road at Ohio State. So they get to the month of October now. They'll play Illinois here at home on October 1st. I'm seeing this as pretty much a close game here in this one, but maybe not. Maybe Wisconsin, with them being at home, they'll be a touchdown favorite or something like that. But Illinois, I think they're a young team. They're kind of similar to Wisconsin. I think both of these teams are pretty even in returning production as well. I'm going to go, though, with Wisconsin here. They win perhaps by a touchdown, perhaps. Maybe by a coin flip as well. Maybe 10 points. But I got the Badgers winning this one at home against Illinois. Next game on the road at Northwestern on October the 8th. Northwestern is going to be a decent team this season. They're not going to be terrible or anything like that. They're going to be a decent team, perhaps an average team as well. The schedule is kind of difficult for them as well this year, but I think Wisconsin can keep this game close. Northwestern, though, they can keep this one close as well. This one is a tough one to call. I think it's a coin flip type game. And with it being a coin flip game, I'm going to go with home field advantage. I'm going to say that Northwestern does defeat Wisconsin here just because it's at home, and it gives them the advantage. The crowd will get into it as well. And I got Northwestern giving Wisconsin their second loss of the season. Next game on the road at Michigan State. This is another game that's out of the Big Ten East as well. So you get a tough draw there with Ohio State and Michigan State as well, both on the road as well. And that's not really, that's not a really good sign if you're a Wisconsin fan as well. But Michigan State, I think Wisconsin, they will get this game to be in the first half. I think they will, keep this one close for a while. But second half, I think Michigan State will pull away. And I think it's going to be about that offense for Wisconsin. I think it just comes down to that defense as well. But I'm going to go with the Spartans here just because they're at home. and I think Michigan State does defeat Wisconsin and give them their third loss of the season. And then they play Purdue here at home on October 22nd, so you get a home game here after those tough back-to-back road games. I mean, Purdue, though, is a veteran team coming back this season. They have a good amount of production coming back. I think this game is going to be a shootout, but it's a tough one to call. It's a tough one to call between these two teams. I think both of these teams are perhaps maybe battling for a second-place spot. I think Purdue is the better team, but with it being a 50-50 game, a coin flip type game, I'm going to go with home field advantage. And I'm going to say that Wisconsin does defeat Purdue here, but not by an easy margin. It will be a shootout, high-scoring game, perhaps. I'm going to go with the Badgers here. It's going to be a good one, so don't really sleep on that game. And Wisconsin gets a bye week after that. They go to the month of November now with a 5-3 record. This is a brutal stretch here in November. But let's talk about the first game in that November. It's Maryland here at home. Good news is you get Maryland here at home, but you have to play them out of the Big Ten East as well. So you get Ohio State, Michigan State on the road. The good news is you get Maryland at home, but the bad news, this is a very, very veteran, experienced Maryland team. I think they're going to have a really good offense this season. Defensively, they're going to be quite good as well. This one is kind of similar to the Purdue game. I think it's kind of a shootout type game, but, I like Maryland in this game, and with these experienced teams, I'm just going to go with the experience. I think Maryland is that experienced team, and I think they're going to get Wisconsin and get a win over here on the road at Wisconsin. I think it will be a loss here for Wisconsin, but just don't really sleep on that game, though. They could still potentially win that game, but I like Maryland in this game better. Next game on the road at Iowa. Iowa, of course, a team that I'm really high on this season in the Big Ten West. I know people are not really happy with my prediction of Iowa this season. I think the schedule just really sets up nicely for them, where they can be perhaps the best team in the Big Ten West. But Wisconsin, though, I think they do keep this game close. It's kind of similar to that game against Michigan State. I think it's kind of similar to that game against Michigan State, but this one is a win for Iowa just because it's on the road, and I think the Hawkeyes do defeat Wisconsin here. Give them their fifth loss of the season. And then they play Nebraska here on the road next as well. November the 19th, Nebraska going to be a team this season that is looking for redemption after all those close games last year. Nebraska, though, I think it's kind of similar in this game to Northwestern. I mean, it's kind of a close game from then on out, but I think Nebraska is just a better, defensive team as well. Maybe the better offense a little bit. Maybe not quite as good, as Wisconsin's. But I think Nebraska does win this one just because it's a 50-50 game. It's a coin flip. I'm going to go with Wisconsin, though, to lose this game. And I got them now going to 5-6. And then they end things out here at home against Minnesota. Minnesota is a veteran team as well. They have a lot coming back on both sides of the ball. This is kind of similar to the Maryland game. With those veteran teams as well, I like Minnesota in this game. It will be a shootout game, kind of similar to the Maryland game and the Purdue game. It goes either way. I'm going to go with the veteran team, and I'm going to go say that Minnesota does defeat Wisconsin here to end things out. I think Wisconsin does lose here in a heartbreak after those. The November schedule is pretty tough. Let's be honest. You have to play Maryland, Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota to end things out. But I can see this team going maybe 7-5 this year, maybe perhaps 6-6, but 5-7 is my official prediction for Wisconsin. And that concludes my prediction for this team. Stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.